Here's another very unusual and very interesting built-in vacuum from the early 1960s. This is, I believe, the first model Vacu-Maid system, and I believe this machine dates from '63. It's a model P245, serial number 6311066, and I think that means that it would have been made in the 11th month of '63, and it was the 66th one that they made that month. 115 volts, 18 amps, which is quite a bit for a single motor machine. I knew from a blog post from the manufacturer that these things used a motor built by Robbins and Myers. And if you know something about old vacuums, you know that Robbins and Myers way back in the 1910s made the motors for Hoover vacuums, and they remained an industrial motor manufacturer. So anyway, Vacu-Maid bought the motors from Robbins and Myers and stuck their own impellers on there. But that was all I knew about these things. I had never come across one. The early Vacu-Maids were not that common in this area, though I have seen one installation that used to have a Vacu-Maid from this time period that was replaced with something different. But it still had the original inlets, and I believe this system would have been installed with inlets like this. And these are pretty cool because inside, you know, the later Vacu-Maid inlets used a single ball bearing that activated a micro switch. Well, this one, let's get it in the light. That contact is what Vacu-Maid refers to as a pin jack. And if you look, of course it's screwed in. Maybe you can see. Okay, so one wire goes to that one pin jack. The other wire is soldered to the neck of the inlet. And so this works like a modern inlet, but instead of two contacts, you just have one. And the other contact is the whole inside neck of the inlet, which, as you can see, is brass. So it would actually be possible to use this with a low voltage hose if you just mask off most of one of the contact strips. But anyway, so they had these in the house, and I got one of them. Kind of cool design, but the machine is really something. The intake is on the right, the exhaust is on the left, and they've got a screw-in fuse behind this little cover. You undo that screw, and then the little door hinges open, which is kind of cool. Underneath this lid, I've already taken the screws out. This thing is way heavier than I was expecting it to be, and it's because of this motor. The weight is all in this motor, and you can see just standard central vac circuitry. Other than that, you've got a big old transformer, big old relay. This relay is actually having an issue. The contacts are wearing out, so the thing slows down and speeds up. I might throw a new relay in this. They wired it interestingly because they only needed a single pole relay, but because they just happened to use a double pole relay, you can see the wire from the motor goes to one pole, in and out, and then crosses over to the other pole, in and out, and that is useless. I don't know what they were thinking. It'd be one thing to switch the hot and the neutral, but that's not what they did. In this case, the neutral just goes to the incoming power, and I guess that would actually be the hot, and the neutral is actually being switched by the relay. So, goofy wiring. Anyway, here's the nameplate on the motor. Focus, you fuck. Robbins and Myers, universal motor, 115 volts. This says 16 amps. 1.5 horsepower. 12,000 RPM. Robbins and Myers, Springfield, Ohio. And This is not actually the interesting part. I was expecting to find something like this. The interesting part is inside here. And we're going to flip this over one hand and we'll see how I do, because this thing is an absolute beast. I'm telling you, it's got to weigh close to 80 pounds. So anybody who knows how a Vacu-Maid works would be familiar with the setup where they have a guard screen and a cone, and that was what I was expecting to find in this one. Not the case. First of all, here's where the intake comes in, and they have this deflector to force the debris down. It's not even making it spin around, it just forces it down. But what in the world is that? It's attached to the motor shaft. The intake to the impeller that creates the suction is behind here. It's just a hole and the shaft protrudes through. This is a separator, just like a rainbow. It spins along with the motor shaft and flings the debris away from the intake. I'm not sure how well it worked. This is pretty clean. And I wasn't about to take the impellers all apart. I think there's only one actually. Maybe two. But what an interesting design. Very short-lived. To my knowledge, this is the only machine that made use of this design, so I'm sure there were problems with it, because there is still a clear passage from the separating chamber into the impellers. But how interesting. This is definitely the only central vacuum, or at least it's the only one I've ever come in contact with, that uses a separator, a rotating separator, instead of a screen. So let's put it back together. Oh, Jesus. Oh. Jesus H. Christ. Yeah, once you mounted this on the wall, it wasn't going anywhere. Okay, let's plug her in. See what it's doing with those relay contacts. So I'm sure that's why this thing was taken out of service from wherever it was installed. I got this at least third hand, so I didn't get to see where it was installed. But I'll probably fix that relay, probably throw a different one in there. But really cool machine. And of course, being from the early 60s, I believe it would have been installed with fittings like these. Those long-turn 45s. ABS, maybe PVC. And these you didn't see after the early 60s either. So, all in all, really neat system. Thanks for watching.